Columbia, South Carolina, summer 2002. Late afternoon light drapes over a quiet suburban street, the kind where nothing bad is ever supposed to happen. Sprinklers tick rhythmically across neatly cut lawns. Cicadas drone in the humid air. A dog barks somewhere down the block. Life feels slow, predictable, safe. In the front yard of her friend's house, 15-year-old Kara Robinson kneels in the grass, filling out a simple summer survey for a school project. She is responsible, practical, the kind of teenager who never forgets a deadline and always comes home on time. Her hair is pulled back, her posture relaxed, but her mind is alert. A kid who grew up paying attention. Her friend is inside showering, getting ready for the day. Kara agreed to wait outside so they could leave immediately afterward. Nothing about this moment feels unusual. Nothing feels dangerous. It's just another slow day in the Midlands. Then a car glides to a stop in the driveway. Not hurried, not hesitant, deliberate. Kara looks up. A man steps out. He looks ordinary. Khaki shorts, a tucked-in shirt, clipboard in his hand. Calm. Smiling. The kind of smile that says, "I belong here." The kind of confidence that dissolves suspicion before it can form. "Hey there," he says, warm and friendly. "I'm giving out some free magazines. Would you like a couple?" His tone is smooth, practiced. His approach too direct, too assured. But Kara doesn't feel danger. She feels awkwardness, the social expectation to be polite. She stands, brushing grass off her knees. He steps a little closer. Cinematic detail sharpens. His movements are fluid, measured. Like someone who has done this many, many times. He holds out the clipboard for her to see. Pages of magazines, all neatly printed. Nothing suspicious at first glance. He keeps smiling as he hands her a pen. But then, the shift. The moment everything fractures. As Kara leans forward to sign, the clipboard tilts. A folder underneath opens slightly, revealing the barrel of a gun. It's out before she can breathe. "Do what I say," he murmurs. His voice is still calm, disturbingly calm. "And you won't get hurt." For a split second, Kara freezes. Not from panic, from calculation. Her mind starts working, rapidly, instinctively. She doesn't scream. She doesn't run. She analyzes. His height, his build, the gun, the angle of his approach, the distance to the street, the fact that her friend is just steps away inside the house, steps away from danger if she resists. He orders her to follow him. Behind his car sits a large plastic storage bin in the back seat, the kind people use in garages to store holiday decorations. He forces her inside, lowers the lid, and snaps it shut. Darkness swallows her. But Kara's mind doesn't fold. It sharpens. Inside the cramped bin, she shifts her weight minutely, testing space, listening for clues. She memorizes the interior smell, faintly chemical, maybe air freshener mixed with sweat. She notes the hum of the engine, the rhythm of the tires, the way the suspension leans. The car begins to move, and in the darkness, she starts building a map. First turn, left. Smooth. Second, right after a long acceleration, maybe on a main road. A stoplight. 2 minutes of idling. A faster road next, engine vibrating at higher RPMs. Highway? She counts seconds between turns, listens for lane changes, estimates his speed by the subtle sway of the container. Kara keeps her breathing steady, keeps her brain working. She will not let herself disappear. This is the part that documentaries sometimes rush through, the quiet brilliance of survival, the steady, almost disciplined focus of someone refusing to surrender their mind even when their body is trapped. She tracks. Time, direction, speed, number of turns, length of stops. Information becomes her lifeline. Observation becomes her weapon. The drive feels long. The air inside the container grows hot, thick. Her wrists ache from the cramped space. She forces herself not to give in to panic. Panic is sloppy. Panic is blind. She needs clarity. Eventually, the car slows. Gravel crunches. A turn into what feels like an apartment parking lot. Doors, footsteps, keys jingling. He opens the bin. Daylight blinds her for a second before he yanks her out, gripping her arm with firm, practiced strength. He ushers her quickly toward a door and pushes her inside. The apartment is small, clean, meticulously organized. Nothing is out of place. There are magazines stacked neatly on a coffee table, a couch angled toward a television, blinds half closed. The door clicks shut behind them, and something inside Kara's mind locks into place. This man is not improvising. This is not his first time. She feels it instantly, in the silence, in the decor, in the practiced way he moves. She looks around, absorbing everything: exits, objects, distances, the smell, the sound of traffic outside. Every detail could matter later. He turns to face her. His expression is calm, predictable, predatory. And without him noticing, she makes a silent promise. If I don't escape, I will die. But she's not thinking about dying. She's already planning how to survive. Kara stands still for a moment, letting her eyes adjust, letting her mind map the scene. The apartment is clean. Too clean. The kind of clean that feels staged, manufactured. Every object has a place. Every surface is wiped down. Nothing is casual or lived in. Her kidnapper moves with familiarity, like this apartment is not just where he lives, it's where he operates. Multiple locks line the front door. Deadbolts, chains. A sliding lock added aftermarket, reinforced. The kind that isn't about keeping people out, but keeping someone in. On the kitchen counter, plastic zip ties, neatly coiled. On the table, a stack of newspaper clippings, some old, some recent. Headlines about missing women, about unidentified remains, about cases that went cold. Kara's eyes drift to the bathroom doorway. Inside, on the sink, are feminine toiletries, hair scrunchies, perfume, a floral body wash. But the apartment is occupied by one man, a man who lives alone. These items don't belong to anyone living. She doesn't let herself react. She doesn't let her breathing change. She just notes it. Because everything she sees is evidence. Everything is information to survive. The man turns toward her. His demeanor remains unnervingly calm, polite even, like he's having a normal evening with company. He speaks casually, giving her directions. Stand here, sit there, don't move. Kara obeys. Not because she is broken, not because she is frozen, but because obedience buys time, and time is what she needs. Inside her mind, she shifts into a mode she didn't know she possessed. A survival mode rooted in logic and clarity. She decides instantly that her job, her mission, is to humanize herself, subtly, carefully, without triggering anger or suspicion. She answers his questions softly. She doesn't cry. She doesn't bargain. She doesn't resist. She presents herself as calm, unthreatening, someone who listens, someone who is not fighting him in this moment. But behind her steady expression, her brain is burning. Study him. Study everything. Stay alive. She watches his routines, the way he folds his shirt immediately after changing out of it, the way he lines his shoes against the wall, the way he pauses before speaking, like he rehearses his words. She notices his anxieties, that he keeps checking the locks, that he sits where he can see both the hallway and the kitchen, that he avoids looking directly into her eyes for too long. He is organized but not confident. Confident predators don't check their locks 10 times in an hour. Time moves strangely inside the apartment, slow and sharp at the same time. Kara compartmentalizes her emotions with a discipline far beyond her age. When he assaults her, she does not mentally collapse. Instead, She moves deeper into strategy. She tells herself, this moment will end. Another moment will come, and in that moment, I will act. Between commands, between threats, between the darkest seconds, she continues observing. She memorizes every detail she can get her eyes on. A piece of mail on the counter, the printed name, his name. A business card tucked under a magnet, the address on a crumpled envelope in the trash. The layout of the kitchen, 3 steps to the sink, 2 to the back hallway. The way the bedroom faces the parking lot. The faint hum of traffic from the main road outside. The neighbor's footsteps upstairs, consistent, rhythmic, a possible indicator of time. At one point, he sets his wallet down on the nightstand. He doesn't notice her glance at it. He doesn't notice her memorizing. His ID photo, his full name, numbers, dates, workplace information. Every piece of information becomes a tool, a weapon, a breadcrumb for investigators, assuming she survives long enough to give it to them. Later, while he watches the news, she catches a glimpse of a report. Her face, her description. The anchor saying her name, saying she is missing. He watches it with a blank expression. He doesn't change the channel. He doesn't panic. He just absorbs it. And that tells Kara everything she feared. She is not the first. She may not be the last. Hours pass. She keeps track of time by the changing quality of light through the blinds, by the sounds of cars entering or leaving the complex, by the rhythm of the man's behavior. Eventually, exhaustion lulls him into sleep, a deep, trustful sleep. This is his mistake. Kara doesn't rest, not for a second. She studies everything around her, more intensely, more deliberately. She maps the location of every window, the direction each one faces, how the blinds are positioned, how much noise the latch makes. She memorizes the locks on the door, which direction they turn, which one sticks slightly, which one would make the least noise. She tests the softness of the carpet with her toes, gauging how quietly she could move. She examines the hallway for obstacles. She listens for patterns, air conditioner cycles, neighbors' footsteps, outdoor traffic. She is building a detailed escape plan in her head. Her heart pounds, but her mind remains sharp, focused, almost mechanical. Because Kara Robinson Chamberlain isn't waiting to be rescued. She is preparing to rescue herself. Morning arrives quietly, almost deceptively. Thin sunlight slips through the blinds, drawing pale lines across the carpet. Kara opens her eyes, not suddenly, not with panic, but with a steady, sharpened awareness. She listens. The apartment is still, but not silent. From behind the bathroom door comes the sound she's been waiting for. Water running, the shower turning on. A rhythm of pipes clicking to life. He's inside, distracted, vulnerable. This is her moment. Her pulse accelerates, but her breathing remains controlled. Every survival instinct in her body seems to rise to the surface at once. Not chaotic, but focused, converging. She scans the room, confirming the details she memorized throughout the night. She tests the restraints again. The zip ties had been tight, but not perfect, and she has been carefully working at them, stretching, flexing, loosening. Now, with deliberate movements, she slips one wrist free, then the other. The shower continues. He doesn't hear a thing. Kara moves with quiet precision, mindful of every shift of weight, every sound the carpet might make beneath her bare feet. The air smells like steam, soap, and the faint scent of bleach. He cleaned constantly. She crosses the room in seconds. The living room is small, the blinds are pulled, but the back door. She remembered the lock, the latch, the slight give in the frame. She reaches it, her hand steady even though her heart is pounding fast enough to shake her ribs. She lifts the lock. No sound. Then the second. A soft click. Behind her, the shower continues running. She eases the door open. Warm, humid air from inside meets the bright, open heat of a South Carolina morning. No turning back. Kara slips outside and closes the door behind her, quiet as a breath. Then, once she's clear of the entryway, she runs. Barefoot, exhausted, half-dressed, but free. The apartment complex is ordinary. Beige buildings, parked cars, early risers heading to work. But to Kara, it feels like the first glimpse of life after a near-death experience. She scans for the first person she can find. A man watering plants near a stairwell looks up, startled. Kara doesn't hesitate. She doesn't panic. She speaks with the same controlled clarity she used inside the apartment. "I've been kidnapped. I need help." He reacts instantly, ushering her to safety, dialing for help. She sits on the curb, catching her breath, but her mind is still racing. Not with fear now, but with purpose. She hasn't escaped the horror just to collapse. She escaped so she could end it. When the 911 operator answers, Kara's voice is calm, almost eerily calm for a 15-year-old girl who has just escaped a serial predator. She gives the address, the apartment layout, his physical description, exact details about his car, the timing of his habits, the placement of weapons, the location of restraints, the evidence scattered throughout his home. The dispatcher tries to slow her down, but Kara keeps going, each piece of information delivered with precision. She remembers everything, as if her brain photographed the entire scene. Responding officers later say she sounded like someone trained in law enforcement, not a teenage girl who had just survived the worst night of her life. When police arrive, she repeats everything again, clear, detailed, structured. No guessing, no confusion. She gives them his name, his routines, all possible details. The officers exchange looks, shock, respect. One of them tells her she's doing better than they could. Usually, victims are too traumatized to speak. But Kara isn't just a victim. She's the key witness to a predator no one knew existed. While officers take her statement, another team heads straight to the apartment to secure the scene. Guns drawn, they move silently up the stairs, position themselves on either side of the door, and breach. Inside, the place is exactly how Kara described it. The clippings, the restraints, the toiletries that belong to no one living. And in one corner, a crude filing system containing trophies, notes, and objects tied to other victims. But the man himself is gone. He fled only minutes before, slipping out the back, abandoning his apartment, likely realizing that Kara would not stay helpless, that she would not simply wait to die. The investigation that would follow, the confessions, the crimes, the identification of past victims, all of it begins here, in this moment. Because Kara didn't just escape her kidnapper, she exposed him. A teenager, acting with the clarity and composure of someone trained for crisis, provided so much detail that detectives knew exactly whom they were hunting before they even processed the crime scene. Her memory became a map. Her calm became a lifeline. And her courage became the turning point in a case that would finally bring a hidden predator into the light. When Kara gives detectives the name on the mail inside the apartment, the room goes still. Richard Mark Ivanitz. The moment investigators run it through their system, something cold rises to the surface. A connection. A familiar name tied to whispers from another state. Files long dormant. Families still waiting for answers. Within hours, police realize what they're dealing with. This wasn't just a kidnapper. This was a predator with a trail stretching across state lines. The manhunt begins immediately. Ivanitz is already on the move. Across highways and winding back roads, his car cuts through the country like a ghost, passing state borders, stopping only long enough to catch his breath, to check mirrors, to scan for patrol cars. He knows the net is closing, and paranoia grips him like a vice. As investigators piece together Kara's information, they track his bank activity, his phone records, his relatives. The FBI joins the chase. Leads converge quickly. He's heading south, deeper into Florida, running out of places to hide. Meanwhile, detectives continue sifting through the horrors inside his apartment. Trophies, hair, photos, notes. Evidence that should never have existed. Evidence that connects him to brutal, unsolved cases hundreds of miles away. Kara's escape didn't just save her life. It exposed a serial killer who believed he was invisible. By June 27, 2002, Ivanitz is fraying. He calls his sister Jennifer, his voice unsteady, exhausted, defeated. He tells her he's done terrible things, more crimes than he can remember. He begs her to meet him. But instead, she calls the police. That decision changes everything. Florida deputies converge on the area. Ivanitz pulls into Bayfront Drive in Sarasota, his last stop in a lifetime of running. Patrol cars box him in, sirens cutting through the humid air. Officers shout commands. Guns are drawn. A helicopter circles overhead. Ivanitz sits behind the wheel, sweating, shaking, staring out at a world he no longer controls. They urge him to surrender, to step out, hands up, end this without bloodshed. He refuses. Minutes tick by. The standoff intensifies. Finally, a police dog is released, sprinting toward the car to force compliance. And that's when he makes his final, predictable choice. The choice of a coward. A single gunshot shatters the standoff. Richard Ivanitz slumps over the steering wheel, ending his own life before anyone can stop him. A lifetime of violence meets its final chapter, not with justice, but with a desperate man taking the only power he had left. The investigation doesn't end there. Inside his belongings, police uncover the truth. Trophies, photos, items stolen from victims. Evidence tying him directly to the long unsolved murders of Sophia Silva and sisters Katie and Kristen Lisk and others. Cases that haunted families and detectives for years. Kara's escape didn't just free her. It broke a case that stretched across states. It gave answers to families who had waited too long. It exposed the monstrous quiet of a man who operated in total darkness. Her courage ended his cycle. Her memory shattered his secrets. And her survival brought his crimes to light. In the days after her escape, investigators sit across from a calm, focused 15-year-old girl, and they realize quickly that Kara Robinson Chamberlain isn't just a survivor. She is their key witness. Every detail she memorized becomes a roadmap. The magazines on his table, the mail with his name, the apartment layout, his routines, the brand of cigarettes he smoked, the movements of his car, even the sound patterns outside the window. Piece by piece, Kara reconstructs the world she had been trapped in. Detectives later admit her information rivaled, and in many ways surpassed, professional police reports. Her memory did more than solve her case. It helped unravel the life of a serial predator who had slipped through law enforcement's grasp for years. But once her statement is finished, the media lights fade and the adrenaline drains, Kara makes a choice, one that shapes the rest of her life. She refuses to be defined by what happened. Kara graduates. She builds new goals, new routines, a new identity that isn't tethered to the violence she endured. She channels her intelligence and resolve into something rare. She joins law enforcement. As an officer, she specializes in victim advocacy, becoming the very person she once needed, someone who understands trauma not as a story, but as a living, breathing reality. Colleagues describe her as composed, intuitive, and relentless in her commitment to protecting others. Later, she expands that mission. Kara becomes a public speaker, traveling across the country, standing before crowds who expect fragility and instead find strength. She steps onto stages with the posture of someone who has already endured the worst moment of her life and refused to break. Her message is simple, powerful, and often repeated. I didn't survive because I was lucky. I survived because I was prepared. She teaches situational awareness, that noticing the small things can save your life. Instinct, that intuition is often the first line of defense. Calm under pressure, the rare ability to think when others freeze. It's not fear she spreads, it's empowerment. Not paranoia, preparation. What happens to the mind when it faces death? What ancient survival mechanisms awaken? How does a teenager bound and trapped manage to outthink a serial killer? Kara's story becomes a lesson in the resilience of the human mind, the way trauma, when met with courage, can be transformed into purpose instead of pain. It's a reminder that heroism isn't always loud or forceful. Sometimes it's quiet, calculated, waiting for the right moment to run. A grown Kara walks confidently toward a speaking event, passing rows of chairs, adjusting her microphone, stepping up to the stage. There's no fear in her posture, only certainty. Her voice steady, layered with everything she has lived through. I was never a victim. I was the one who got away.